As you can imagine, the support that I'm having to give to the tenants just period, even before COVID came into play, was overwhelming because unfortunately the situation that they're having to live in. So now, once COVID came into the picture, it was even more emotional and even heavier than it had been in the past. Now, besides just the unfortunate events that the tenants were having to live in, the unfortunate conditions, they were now worried about getting sick, and their loved ones were getting sick, and loved ones was passing away. So besides my worries and my concerns from not only myself but also my family, I was also having to try to be available for the tenants that I have been working with for these last 2 to 3 years.
We can't depend on maintenance because their backlog will get to you. They're going to get to you, but when? Right. It never happens. So either you have to know how to fix it or find somebody to know how to fix it if you want your apartment to continue to be livable.
Management was, especially the apartment complexes that I've been working with, the management was just not available. Tenants complained of that often, going to the office and not having anyone there, or constantly being told that they needed to come back with more information. So now there was even another excuse for management to use to not be available to the tenant. So tenants were left in living conditions that during a pandemic, they had to still try to figure out what to do when the heat goes out because the management wasn't there, what to do when the AC wasn't working because the management wasn't there. Now the kids are home. And that was, I think that was the biggest game changer.
The first impression and the most powerful one was my first visit to Copper Tree. It was obvious that the property was in a state of disrepair, that residents there were suffering, that crime was excessive, that it was simply a dangerous place to be. First time I visited, I noticed broken windows, empty and vacant units, and the property did not look really to be habitable.
They come in your apartment, they don't tell you they're supposed to leave the paperwork, don't tell you anything.
They don't do none of that.
They had one maintenance guy would come in your house and steal whatever he wants to. And they finally fired him after so many people complained against him.
My truck got shot twice, before.
That's what we just got to talking about, the
right,
how people are feeling.
Right, but like I said, I've been here long enough. It's time for me to, everybody else I know has already moved.
How long you lived here?
Well, this year gonna make 12.
12 years.
People would tell us, pretty scary stories, from bullets flying through a window to persistent mold, pest control problems like spiders and cockroaches being all around the property, and they gave us really firsthand look on what they're facing themselves, and things that you don't necessarily see from dry reports.
With the mold, which caused a lot of illnesses and asthma problems and breathing problems for the kids, with the crime that they're continuously afraid of on a daily basis, and with less money, with fear of what could possibly come, with conditions that were continuously getting worse and worse around them.
My grandson started having grandma seizures. And when I took him to the doctor, everything, no. He said, well, is there any mold? And when he said that, that's when the light came on. Oh my God. I didn't know that it could cause that, trigger you to start having seizure. I did not know that until he explained it to me. And he asked me, how bad is it? I showed him the pictures on the like dark streets, and around the carpet, it was so molded, like something was growing from the carpet.
It was just an overall absence of management, of maintenance, they were kind of just left there to fend for themselves during COVID, through the majority of COVID. And it was a sad thing to see. I gotta say, like, even for myself, it was a difficult time to get through. But I think about the tenants that I watched and I tried to be there for as much as possible. I think about what they have endured during this last year. And I have to tell you, it's like they're like superheroes. Like, they're like superhuman, because I don't know if I would have been able to continue through those situations. I would have to say that my job during that time was to provide as much moral support as possible. We did have a few interactions when it came to like virtual meetings between the two of us, where we'll just come together and talk, like, what's going on and how can we figure out how to get some food to your apartment. There was camaraderie when it came to assisting others that they knew were in need of help. But overall, when it came to us working on our game plan, moving forward with fighting to get better housing, there was a shift. It was more of a shift towards, let's just support each other through this moment, and we'll refocus and we'll get back, because we will get back to it. You know, like, there was optimism that we continued to pump each other up throughout this whole process, and that was a great thing.
Our contact with tenants initially occurred through the housers, specifically Erica. She was really a person on the ground who went out there, visited residents' homes, and relayed their concerns to us. After that, we organized a few community meets where we actually spoke to residents at Copper Tree, informed them of their rights, and gathered more information from individuals actually living there as to what they're facing.
We've had a amazing team along this process. Our team pretty much consisted of not only the housers, but a great relationship and partnership with Lone Star Legal Aid, Kimberly and Vel.
We had already seen HUD's notices to the property owner, which stated that the property is failing inspections, but it's not the same as when you see it for yourself and in person.
They stayed on top of the movement throughout the whole process. So when management reports back to HUD and says, oh, we've remedied, or we fixed all of these issues, we checked all of these boxes off, the tenants were able to say, no, you didn't. Like, we have proof that you did not do this. So that alone was a very powerful thing, which allowed other movements to start taking place. That's like the biggest part of my job, I feel. Like, I have to continually remind the tenants of the bigger goal, not only to educate and to inform and to gather information and to provide information. I feel like my most important part when it comes to my job is to always encourage and to always motivate, because of the conditions that they are having to live in.
I don't know how many years I went in the office and kept telling, and it's like when you go in the office, they feel like you're complaining and they get angry at you, and then they retaliate against you.
I got so much paperwork on these people, it don't make sense.
Don't make no sense.
If you don't turn your water on every day, it comes out black.
Black, oh God.
It's so dark until it just run into, this is unbelievable.
When I moved in here, they had shampooed the carpet. They didn't put no new carpet. Like, most people got wood floor. But you know, like I said, they don't have to come in here, whatever, to change, because I really want to get them out of here.
You had the same carpet for 12 years?
Yeah.
In my mind, I was going to get in there and I was going to galvanize the tenants, and the conditions were so bad, it was obvious that we were going to be able to get these tenants vouchers immediately. And the frustration started to set in when you realize that the amount of power or the lack of opportunity for the tenant to be able to present or to interact or to complain. I mean, there's so many different ways was just not there. It always felt like a very slow process until we got close to a court date. And then we got close to a court date. Then, of course, there was somewhat of an urgent desire for an answer and hope.
We were hopeful after oral argument in the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. The judges were asking informed questions. They were really listening to what we had to say. They were focusing on the regulations, on HUD's own regulations that obligate HUD to assist. And we felt that that was the most straightforward way to get the judges to agree with us by really pointing them to regulations that HUD itself wrote and that allow residents to obtain vouchers when they're living in such deplorable conditions, where HUD itself issues notices of default to the owner, giving them 30 days to make improvements, and the owner fails to do so.
When an inspection is done and the inspection fails, no one's there to say anything about it. No one is there to overlook management and say, you know, hey, you didn't do this in an amount of time. And I think it just continuously falls through the gaps. And they are extremely comfortable with it. But with carpentry, once we provided multiple complaints all at once, because Southwest Housing said they had never seen that amount of complaints coming in at one time. So the tenants were able to get the attention of Southwest Housing to let them know that we are watching you. This is your job. Your job is to make sure that the owner does what they're supposed to do, and you're supposed to report this. That, I think, alone is what forced the hand to move a little bit more in our favor when it came to the legal part of it all. And just thankful that we finally got a judge that understood and was willing to say, we have to hold them responsible. This is the law.
Originally, the case was dismissed for lack of jurisdiction, with the trial court finding that it did not have really the authority to hear the case, and that the residents could not proceed with the suit. We appealed, and the Court of Appeals read a regulation to require HUD to provide relocation assistance, meaning vouchers, to residents if certain conditions are met. And the interpretation of that provision in the client's favor is what caused the case to be reversed and remanded. So essentially the Court of Appeals told the district court that they should not have dismissed the case and that residents have a right to complain.
They have taken on a huge task, and I've seen so many of them like blossom. They turned into these amazing advocates, fighting not only for themselves but for their community.
I want to be in a nice, clean apartment with nice, clean water that's safe. I don't want to be in an apartment with shortage, where you plug something in the walls and you don't know what's going to happen. Where the surge is so strong, it go up the wall into the light fixture. I just want to feel safe.
It hadn't been an easy road.
No, it haven't.
It hasn't. But we almost there. And
Well,
we're persistent.
I'll just stand here and hold on till the time comes.
That's it.
You know, hope go on, push a little faster. So I can go.
Push it faster, guys.
Now, we're hopeful. The tenants are hopeful, and they don't plan on stopping because they can smell the victory. Like this Fifth Circuit ruling, like really gave them an electrical boost. Like you can only imagine, like almost 2 years, they've been fighting this fight. Some have gone, new ones have come aboard. And the great thing about this is that it's going to be able to create a blueprint of sort for other organizations to be able to follow. How did these tenants, how did the group of women that started off with just 3, that has turned into well over 45, 50 women, they're seeing the housing that they've dreamt of for so long.
This has been a very complex case that has taken a long time to wind its way through the courts. And we would not have been able to do it without the help of both co-counsel, Mike Daniel and Laura Bashara, without the help of the housers. Erica was the one who continued to inform the clients, who kept visiting the property and, encouraging people when they were losing hope and when they were becoming impatient and wondering what is taking so long. Federal litigation takes a long time to complete, and we wanted to make sure that people understand we are still here. And even though it's taking some time, we are not giving up. I couldn't even really list everyone who deserves to be thanked, but it's really the entire EDI unit, housers, and of course tenants, without whom this would not have been possible.
That's the excitement for me, knowing, and the pleasure for me, knowing that this long journey that I've been on with the tenants is not just a victory for these tenants, but I see this being a victory for hundreds, thousands of other tenants that are in the same conditions, who aren't working with an organization, who are feeling like they have to accept the conditions that they're living in, not knowing exactly who to go to, putting the owners, putting HUD, putting also city officials on alert to let them know, like, we see you, you have a responsibility, and you need to make sure that you do what's right for these tenants.
That's what I'm hoping for, praying for. You got that voucher right now?
I got it in my pocket.